Donald Trump has announced a shocking 10% minimum baseline tariff for all imports into the U.S., with dozens of countries hit with rates multiple times higher. These new import taxes imposed by President Trump through an executive order have sent economic shock waves around the world, including Ghana. But the United States president believes they are necessary to address trading imbalances and protect American jobs and manufacturing. Let's listen to the American president after he signed the executive order.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less, so how can anybody be upset? European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. Japan, very, very tough. Great people. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. Prime Minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. The numbers are so disproportionate, they're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart. And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating.
And you had the U.S. President Donald Trump giving details after imposition of that 10% base tax on import into the U.S. Let me bring you some more. Steel, aluminium articles and autos or auto parts are all under that tax. Also copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber, also bullion, energy products and certain minerals unavailable in the U.S. The also impacts on Ghana's economy, or that 10% on Ghana. Now, total export to the U.S. as at 2024 was about 6.95 billion Ghana cedis. That's 40.7% of North American export. Also, cocoa beans and products, about 3.14 billion Ghana cedis, that represent about 11.5% of total cocoa export. Also, 10% tariff import impact will be 695 million additional costs. That's Ghana cedis, and cocoa export alone will be 314 million in extra tariffs. Now, we're joined by Appiah Kusi Adomako. He's an economist and the West Africa Regional Director for COT International. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners of TARIFF FM. Beatrice.
Now, for years, there have been calls for the deepening of regional integration and trade, and I'm sure you know about this. How does this tariff imposition by the U.S. reignited the need for Africa to take its destiny into its own hands, as it were, moving forward?
Okay, I think the tariffs by President Trump is a clear reminder to African countries that if we learn to trade among ourselves, we will not be exposed to unilateral tariffs and other punitive tariffs and other trade barriers. Even when you take tariff aside, sending your goods to the U.S. market, you need to meet certain criteria. For example, when you want to take your cucumber to the European market, the size of it, the length of it, all of those things matters. But if Nigeria is exporting cucumber to Ghana or carrot to Ghana, all those non-tariff measures to trade will not matter. And so I think that this measure by the U.S. president is a clear indication that African countries need to do more to trade among ourselves. Once we trade among ourselves, one, it is cheaper to trade among ourselves. Two, we are also, of course, there are certain goods and services that African countries cannot produce, and so we need to get them from the U.S. market. And of course, even under the AFCFTA, we still need to buy some goods from other countries. So, but if we start to trade more among ourselves, we will reduce our over-reliance on other non-African countries for our goods and services.
And I know that even within AFTA, there are some still teething challenges among countries. Not everybody is signed to it, even the regulations and all of that. How do you expect these issues to be dealt with as soon as possible so we are able to benefit from our own market space, as it were, at this critical moment?
Of course, Rome was not built in a day. The EU, as we see today, when it started post-World War II, had a lot of teething problems. And so we can't expect AFCFTA to become perfect overnight. And EU started with less than 10 countries, and AFCFTA is over 50 countries. And getting 50 countries to agree on a trade pact is not an easy thing. Every country is looking for is to make sure that they are able to also fight for their needs, and their wants needs to be factored in. But when Europe started, it was easy for them. And so we should just be diligent and be consistent and commit ourselves to it. There's a saying that every great gain comes to face accompanying pain. So once we work hard, sacrifice our appetite for European goods and Asian goods, and we start trading among ourselves, in the long run, AFCFTA will be successful, and we will not need to import everything that we need from Europe or America or other parts of the world.
In the meantime, whilst we try to deal with the teething issues, what do you think can be done immediately to ensure that we're still benefiting some way, somehow?
Well, so now the tariffs have come, and like it or not, let me answer these questions in the two sides. We have got the supply side and the demand side. The supply side are those who are producing their goods and exporting to other countries. Those who are producing their goods from Africa and they are exporting to Europe and America. Those are the supply side. The demand side are Africans who are also demanding goods from non-African countries. So now for the supply side, for those companies that are supplying goods to Europe and America, for example, I think that they must also be looking into within. We need to start looking into African market to see where we can export those goods. Of course, the trading infrastructure doesn't support trading among Africa, because if you want to ship goods from Accra to, let's say, Cote d'Ivoire, for example, the ship leaves from a port and has to go to Madrid, Spain, before another ship will bring it to Cote d'Ivoire. So you see that all of these trading logistics and infrastructure does not even support intra-African trade. And I think that as we work along in the long run, we'll be able to overcome some of these challenges. But in the short term, I think that the short term is that we need to start rethink the future of trade in Ghana and in Africa, in a way that we can make it work and benefit the people in the continent.
Mr. Kusi Adomako, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.